welcome to Teddy's Universe. Hey, welcome to the universe. Hey, welcome to Teddy's Universe. Welcome to another episode of the Teddy Blackmon Chronicles. And today, if you are listening, I appreciate you for listening. This is going to be a nice little conversation or whatever, at least I believe so. And today I'm going to be chronicling relationships before a baby and after a baby, and why it seems that in society relationships drastically fail once a baby is born. So without further ado, let's get into it. My greatest think piece on this subject, it's a million different directions that this could go in. We're going to touch on a few of them, but we're not going to get into all the possibilities because this is a topic that I definitely probably want to rehash down the line with some guests on or whatever to get other people's perspectives and things like that. But in the meantime, I am going to, give my perspective, a few of them. And the biggest one, to simplify it, I like to say I'm a numbers person. I also like to say I'm a analogy type of person. Anybody knows me knows I love to make analogies. So, in my honest opinion, I feel like a lot of relationships aren't built on a strong foundation, which I've said in the past before on millions of conversations, previous podcasts, yada, yada, yada. That's not the important piece. But I also feel like it's almost the equivalent to taking like your favorite hobby and turning it into a business. Now your favorite hobby is something you do probably as an escape. You're having tons of fun. Everything is flowing smoothly. I mean, nothing's perfect, but everything is flowing smoothly for the most part. You have a lot of freedom. You have the options, and you have a lot of things like are under your control. And I say that to say that when your favorite hobby becomes a business, well, now a lot of things are now out of your control. Now you're putting pressure on yourself to have a successful business. Now the one thing that you love doing the most isn't going to be as fun no more, because now there's pressure to make money off of it. Now there's pressure to create a lifestyle off of it. And now it's not bringing you that kind of joy that it once was. And if it's not bringing you joy, now it's bringing you something else. It's either going to be stress, it's going to be anger, it's going to be tiredness, it's going to be maybe depression, feeling of defeat, whatever that emotion that's going to seep in to fill that void is going to be there. I feel like a lot of relationships, I'm not saying a lot of relationships are phony, because I don't believe that, but I feel like a lot of relationships are built with the wrong kind of foundation. And the foundation in today's society, it's not what it needs to be. I feel like the foundation needs to be built on, like, if I had to use one word, and there's a bunch of words that a foundation for a relationship needs to be built on, but if I had to use one word, I would say commitment. And I think commitment is the best word for me to use, in my opinion, because that's going to determine a person willing to put up with things when it's not as fun anymore, or when it does get a little stressful, or when it does feel sort of like a business. Because a relationship definitely feels like a business once a kid's involved, or once something is involved that you can't just take lightly anymore. Because pre-kid, you have the option of being like, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. Kid, it's you have to do this, you have to do that, you need to do this, you need to do that. And you start seeing which you should have gauged early on in the situation, which a lot of people don't, but I'm going to get into that as well. You start seeing true personality traits of people when they need to deliver. Not just when they want to, but when they need to, when they have to be consistent. Not just having options and popping up when you want to, when it's convenient. Hey, I've been busy all day. I haven't had a chance to talk. Well, now you have to make time to talk. You have to. You know what I mean? And a lot of people just, especially nowadays, they just run from the commitment. You know what I mean? And it's very interesting because, also another thing could be like, women deal with a lot while carrying and delivering a baby. There's a lot of hormone changes going on. And maybe the attraction does just fade. Maybe, the postpartum depression thing plays a huge factor into these situations as well. um, it could be that. It could be, maybe the relationship wasn't a real relationship. Maybe it was for funsies. And as soon as this happened, the guy, just jumped ship. You know what I mean? The guy had no plans of commitment. The guy had no plans of starting a family. Sometimes the doing the growing up, it feels really, really good. And in that moment, you start saying and doing things that you're not really thinking about long term. You're just in the moment. You know what I mean? And if you're married and planning to do this, then, hey, it is what it is. If you're in a relationship and you feel like you got a good partner, which I'm sure beforehand everybody's feeling like they got a good partner, but I'm guessing a lot of relationships aren't battle tested. Sure, you might argue, but that's not really being battle tested. Because at the end of the day, again, when you argue, you might go a little time without speaking. You might fake break up, get back together, break up, get back together. But there's nothing definitely tying you together like there isn't a kid or there isn't an official marriage where you're by law tied together. That's why you also see like the divorce rate so high because now this is official. This is almost like a business. It's like I'm gonna keep going back to it. It's almost like a business. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the things that you do while you're just in a relationship or you're just talking and stuff like that. In theory, it should still be like that, but it's a lot of things added to it where you don't have as much freedom. You know what I mean? Like it's just a lot that goes into this, but we're gonna get into it. So, the hormone changes. Women are, they deal with a lot of hormones, and you have to be prepared. And it's not fair to say you have to be prepared, but you really have to be prepared, somehow, some way, to deal with like a lot of the hormone changes. You really have to go the extra mile, the extra 2-3 miles to be there for women when they're going through this period because they're not really themselves. They're carrying another human being. You know what I'm saying? So it's like now they're developing a life inside of them. So their body is taking away things from them to put inside the body that's been nurtured to be brought into life. You know what I mean? So sometimes, yes, your emotions are going, well, speaking to the women, we know the emotions are going to be off. You're going to be extra sad sometimes. You're going to be extra happy sometimes. You're going to be extra, mad. You might be overstimulated a lot, overwhelmed a lot, things like that. And I'm not saying, to the guys, I'm not saying like you just got to shut up and deal with it, but you really have to like weather that storm because if you can weather that storm somehow, some way, then once everything is over with, for the most part, you're gonna avoid the kickback potentially of like the postpartum depression and the things like that. Because if you can keep that from kicking in, then I feel like you'll be good to go. Now, what happens is guys normally they don't know how to deal with like strong emotional women. They could deal with emotional women, but when it's a strong emotional woman, guys tend to not know how to deal with it or don't want to deal with that. But at the same time, for somebody who's carrying a life that y'all both created, your legacy, your family is going to continue on with this. You just really have to find a way. Again, this is the word that I used earlier, commitment. You have to find a way to like be there and to find a way to like weather that storm. And some guys are immature. It depends on. I ain't gonna say it depends on age, but depending on circumstances and experience, some guys are immature. Like when I was younger, I was mad immature. I can admit that. Um, it took a couple of instances for me to like get my head on straight, and every guy's different. Some guys they are young and they are super self aware. I have a coworker at work. He's about 21, 22. He is the most self-aware youngin I think I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I told him the other day I'm amazed at how like aware of self he is. Because when I was 21, I was 100 miles away from that. You know what I'm saying? Like I was just like utterly impressed. You know what I'm saying? So it just depends on who the guy is, the experiences, the circumstances, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I feel like you really have to like try your best to weather that storm. Now, I'm not saying that's gonna work, because nothing's perfect and things can go wrong anyway. But that's just you want to give yourself the best chance. I know I'm a numbers guy, analytics. You want to give yourself the best chance, the best odds to avoid this type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Um, Obviously, like I said, some people. I hate to say it and sound. It's not gonna. I'm not gonna say it like so it sound cruel or nothing, but some people, once you announce that you're pregnant, some people already have in their mind they're gone. Like they already have in their mind like, yeah, I'm not dealing with this. I guess it ain't really no conversation to be had about that. I mean, what can we do about that? What can we say about that? It ain't really nothing we could do to change that. If a person just if their first thought, if their reflex thought is to say, "Hey, I'm just going to get up out of here," then it's nothing we can talk about and do about with that one. Um, Again, I just feel like the relationships are mainly had for fun, and when a kid comes along, it's now like a business. You're tired more. Baby is keeping you up now instead of running off 8 hours of sleep. And depending on your age and situation, most adults don't even get 8 hours of sleep. So you're working against your body clock or whatever. Let's say you get 6 hours of sleep. Well, now the baby's keeping you up half the night. So now you're running off 3 hours of sleep, maybe 2 hours of sleep. Now you have to go work a 8, 10, 12 hour shift. You're exhausted. And you're going to be rather exhausted because the baby's not going nowhere. Sure, you'll get breaks. Hopefully you get breaks because I've known some women that, don't get breaks. And it's so heartbreaking how, you know, their family will be disappointed with them, so they won't help out as much. Um, it's just a lot of things that it will tire you out and really, really wear you down. And now, when you're tired, you're not thinking how you normally would if you were full of energy. Well, not even full of energy, but just, regular capacity energy, we'll say. You know what I mean? So it's again, I keep saying it, it's a lot, but I feel like it is a humongous, life changing, life altering, life creating, life building commitment. And I think in that serious moment, it just exposes that a lot of people aren't ready for commitment. And, some people, they just never had to commit to anything or never had to stick with anything. Some people are ready for commitment and you just come up a little short, which is okay because, if you've never done nothing that serious or that, monumental before, sometimes you do have to grow into that kind of role. Sometimes you do have to get it together. Sometimes you do have to grow up and realize, like, things are going to be better if you put forth more effort and better effort. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has different timetables for that type of stuff. So if that's the kind of person it is, then of course you would want a person to come out the gates all in, but in a perfect world, that's what it would be. So if you got somebody like that, then kudos to you, blessings to you, and things like that. And if you got somebody that's at least trying, have a little leniency. I know y'all be tired and stuff like that, but you got to hang in there because as much as we like to think that there's just a million options out here, it's not. It's not a million options. I know, people be on social media. You get a bunch of likes, you get a bunch of comments and stuff, and you think like, oh, all these people could be with me and stuff like that. It's um the guys, half the girls want to use you for money. The other probably, some of them probably want to use you for sex. And once that thrill is over, once that attraction is over, they're on to the next. And ladies, half the guys just want to get on top of you and hump your life away. If not more than half the guys, every 3/4 of a guy. They just want to experience you physically, and then they're on to the next. Long again, I spoke about this a few weeks ago on one of them podcasts. Long term commitment is probably the most difficult thing, one of the most difficult things in life, because everything, especially in today's society, everything that people search for in today's society, you don't really get that with long term commitment because people search for the instant gratification, validation. You're not going to get that with long term commitment. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're working out to get like a six pack or something, you're not going to get it in 30 days. Unless you just was on the brink of getting it and you just kind of fell off or something like that. And then, you just kind of, oh, yeah, let me get back right quick. But if you've never had it and you've been working towards it, you're not going to get it in 30 days. Might take you a year. Might take you 2 years. It has to be a long-term commitment based on your situation. And now that you know that this isn't going to be an overnight thing, are you still going to be committed? And a lot of people would jump ship and be like, fuck it. You know what I mean? It's been certain situations where even me, I've been like, well, this is going to take a long, long time to do. I'm not going to do it. And never mind that, well, God and universe willing, this time is going to pass anyway, so you might as well do it. So by the time this time passes, hey, you have done this. You know what I mean? And that's my mindset that I have now. But it took me a long time to get to this mindset. You know what I mean? So it could take others longer. It could take others shorter. It just depends on people and situation. But because this seems to be an overwhelming, kind of common problem, that relationships really just crash and burn once a kid is born. And not even like, 2-3 years down the line. It'd be like during the pregnancy or immediately after the baby's born. You know what I'm saying? The baby be 6 months and they'd be like, oh, I'm a single mom. And it's just like, damn, what the helly? You know what I'm saying? Like, what the helly? Type shit. You know what I'm saying? So it just, I just feel like, I ain't gonna say it's forced commitment, but I feel like that commitment just kind of smacks you in the face. And one thing I will say is that you will see a person's true nature when they're under pressure. That is the best. That's why, when it comes down to like friends and stuff like that, like I use me as an example. Like a lot of my friends, most of my friends, I'm not gonna say I have a boatload of friends or anything like that, but most of my friends became friends through being battle tested or through situations where it was like you have to know if a person's really down for you or not. Because anybody could be a friend when shit is going right all the time. You know what I'm saying? But you short on a bill or something and see who you can call. And I'm not saying that a person got to give you money. You know what I'm saying, to prove that, oh, they're a real friend and pay my rent. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't have to be that. But any serious situation, and A lot of my friends, we've been in life or death situations. We've been in super serious situations where, well, if this person didn't really fuck with me, they would have left me in this situation, or and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a lot of that we've been battle tested, and I feel like a lot of people don't have that. They don't experience that, and that is also like a thing to talk about when it comes to like commitment. Is that I'm not gonna say like you should look for that. You should look for these little nuances in a person, but I think it would help that when searching for people who don't mind being committed, just do a little homework on them and dig into the history and see what they've actually been committed to. You know what I'm saying? That will let you know if a person, because we're, like I always say, we're creatures of habit, you know? So if you're a person if you're a committed person, then odds are up until this point, there should be a few things that you've committed to. Whether you've been in school, getting a degree, whether you've been growing your hair for 10 years, whether it should be something, it should be things that require, commitment over a long period of time. And odds are if a person has that, then the person at least has the foundation to be committed long term. Again, in a perfect world, everything would be perfect. So you still can find that, and shit can still go wrong. Trust me, I know. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's just baffling to me, like the numbers. And I hope going forward, I think it's gonna get a little worse first before it starts to actually get better. Because I do think there'll be a period where people would just stop having kids in general. Because also, the gender wars are at an all time high right now. And don't get me wrong, I laugh and joke at the gender war stuff. Some stuff be genuinely funny. But after a while it just gets kinda sad. And it's just like, yo, we really kinda like hate each other. We know we need each other, but everybody has too much pride, too much ego, or you've been hurt, so now you're out here hurting people. Gotta boost your ego by hurting people, so you can, oh well, yeah, I got my heart broke, but now I'm doing this and now I'm doing that. So hey, it is what it is. It's the game. You know what I'm saying? And next week, speaking of the game, next week I'll be talking about. I don't know if it's gonna be next week. It might be 2 weeks. If it's not next week, it'll be 2 weeks. I think I might start dropping these every 2 weeks now. I don't know. It might be next week. I don't know. Next week we'll be talking about heroes and villains. Obviously taking the aspect from movies and stuff like that, but just applying it to like actual societies. You know, uh, societies understandings and structure and things like that. And but that'll be for next week. But yeah, I just feel like we need to do a better job of just analyzing people's personalities, because I feel like a lot of things is run off looks right now. So if people are attracted to each other, that will be enough to get people in a relationship, which is not good. I'm not against that per se, but the foundation is going to be horrible. Because one, if somebody just magically, not magically, but somebody becomes unattractive, relationship's pretty much going to be over. But you don't know, just you're on board just because they appease you physically, and they could be a horrible person, and now you're on your way to creating a life with a horrible person, with somebody that's going to leave you high and dry, and you thinking just because they're attracted to you physically they wouldn't leave you high and dry. But that's exactly what most people would do, because again, that stuff is going to wear off when shit gets serious. That's why the personality should be so important, because the personality stuff is, that's when stuff gets serious. Like, hey, I might lose my job. I might need you to hold us down for 3 months instead of you moving out and leaving and breaking up with me. You know what I'm saying? That's the difference. And now I'm homeless, and now I'm at rock bottom, and things like that, because I thought I had a partner with me, but I don't. You're just a fair weather fan. You're here for the good times. As soon as times get a little bad, you're gone to the next. It's so important to gauge these things to give yourself the best chance. You just got to give yourself the best chance. And again, I feel like eventually we'll get back to that. I feel like it's just going to get a little worse. And then I feel like a few years, maybe 5, 7 years of low child birth rates, um, with low expectations. I'm not gonna say low expectations, but realistic expectations. And then something's gonna happen where having a good personality is gonna be the cool thing again. You know what I mean? Somebody's gonna make that popular again, and then from that point on, for the most part, everything will work itself out. Because it's still going to have people like doing how they do now, faking like they got good personalities and stuff like that. But their personality to just be like a bunch of memes and just trash. You know what I mean? And you have to understand that when you're doing something serious as building like again, because I'm starting to I really be thinking like people don't understand how serious this stuff is. People just think like, okay, we just lay down, have sex, have a baby, and boom, that you're building a legacy. Like, no, it takes so much to raise a kid, to buy a home, to buy a car. If you've been through these things, which all take commitment. So again, if you know anybody who's been through these things, like that's why I never understood the fact that people would make fun of other people that don't have certain stuff. Like when I see people online saying, "Hey, I got this car. If you ain't got a car, it'll be some type of jokes or some shit like that." And if you're just joking, just to joke, that's one thing. But if you're just like genuinely online bashing people to make yourself feel better, that's trash because it's difficult to get a car. You know what I'm saying? Um, it's super difficult to get a car. It's even more difficult to maintain one. You can crash. Something can fall apart. Somebody could steal your shit. Somebody could hit your shit when you not even around. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so much shit out of your hands. You know what I'm saying? That could take that shit away from you. And everybody not rich to just go out and buy another one or have the insurance set up where you can just get another one and things like that. The same thing with the house. It's like I've known people that they had nice houses and then something caught fire, electrical fire, house burned down, and the insurance doesn't cover the full cost of the house. So life started going down from there, et cetera, et cetera. It is difficult to maintain this type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So same thing about these relationships, like with the kids. This takes like a level of commitment that a lot of people aren't aware of and aren't ready for. And if you are a person that commits or knows how to commit and you build the routines, then you'll more than likely be up for the challenges. But as we can see in society, a lot of people are not. They're just not up for these challenges. You know what I'm saying? But again, I I try to remain like optimistic about things. Again, I do feel like this stuff will work itself out. This is gonna take a long time. Might not even see it in our lifetime or my lifetime. You know what I'm saying? This might take a few decades or whatever. You know what I mean? But hopefully, the people who go through these unfortunate experiences, 'cause it's rather unfortunate. So hopefully, it's gonna come down to the women because they have to at least instill within the kids that they're having that it should be more than just the physical. It has to be the spiritual. It has to be like, you know, get you a good person. Everybody says they want a good person, but then it's not, it's just no way that most people just keep ending up with bad people if that's not what you secretly looking for. You know what I'm saying? Like if good people were really in demand, the world would be, I ain't gonna say completely different. The world would be so different though. But bad people are definitely in demand. And words I really don't pay attention to words anymore. It's all about what people do. Like, you sit back and watch the steps a person take. That will tell you everything you need to know about said person. A person will tell you anything to get out of that moment with you, to get into a moment with you, whatever it is. But you sit back and watch and see what a person rather would do without you saying nothing, without you complaining, without you making a suggestion. Just see what they would rather do. That will tell you everything you need to know. And you just have to go off that. Now, I'm not saying you need to be out here testing people because then it would be like ingenuine. That would be very disingenuous. You know what I'm saying? But you definitely need to gauge that personality before a commitment of starting a life because it's so difficult to do it by yourself. Even when you have a nice support system, eventually, if you're not paying babysitters, which are mad expensive, your family does it, but they're gonna get tired eventually because that's not their kid, it's yours. And even though they won't say it, some people will eventually if they get mad enough, if they get tired enough, drunk enough, you know what I mean? Some people won't say it, but they're thinking it in their mind when they look at you like, well, this is your fault. You should have just chose better. You should have did better. You should have had your stuff together more. And we can help, but it's only gonna last but for so long. And you shouldn't even be like banking on that help. And it's not really speaking to women per se. Obviously, it's y'all in that position, but it's sometimes it's out of y'all hands. So it's really not your fault all the time. You know what I'm saying? Outside of the women that just pick the knuckleheads, because some women just purposely do it and don't care. And I'm not talking to them because I know they don't care. You know what I'm saying? But men, I feel like we need to be better committed to things or whatever. And I know that shit could be super difficult because some girls do go crazy. They get that power. They understand that the ball's in their court and they go crazy. You know what I'm saying? Um, but we gotta try to like weather the storm at least as much as we can. Now, if it's unbearable, then you could exit the relationship. Not don't exit the kid's life, but exit the relationship and still, you could co-parent and things like that. I'm not really I know a lot of people like to say technically it's a broken home, but I'm not really on board with the term broken home if both parents are like co-parenting like equally. Yes, you're not living together, but I'm not even gonna lie to you. I've been thinking about it like so much over the past decade, about the past 10 years, and I've always jokingly said it like on Facebook. Popped in the memories like a couple weeks ago. Matter of fact, one of them I've probably said this like 20 times, but if I was to get married, which I don't think I'm gonna get married, but if I was to get married, my wife would probably have to like live next door or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like so, it I'm not really on board with the whole broken home terminology unless it's just dad is just gone completely or a mom is gone completely. Because sometimes the mom disappears too. You know what I'm saying? Or the mom is not pulling up her weight or anything like that. You know what I mean? So unless either or parent is gone, then I would be like, okay, that's a broken home. But co-parenting, we kind of gotta redefine broken home. You know what I'm saying? So it it comes down to that. But I just felt like I had to speak on a few of these little nuances about this topic because I was talking to a few of my bros, like I shouted out my boy Cape. And I might have talked about this with Mike as well. And I had conversations years ago with like Coop and Kenny and stuff like that. And it's always a topic of how, like, as soon as like a child is born, relationships just literally crash and burn. Like when it's time to be serious, relationships end quick. And that should be a really tall telling sign, or all telling sign of people. A lot of people are just out here to have fun. Even in relationships, they're just trying to have fun. They're not trying to build. They just having fun. And the moment you have to get serious, people gone. You know what I'm saying? I sit back and watch people say, "Yeah, you can't struggle around me because if you do, I'll leave." Or if you gain if you gain 30 pounds, I'm gone. If you lose 50 pounds, I'm gone. Like, you need to maintain this perfectness right here. Either or, I'm gone. You know what I'm saying? If you lose this, if your titties start to sag, I'm gone. You know, if your booty isn't perfectly round, I'm gone. Like, it's a lot of stuff I hear people say, like all different types of people say, and it just lets me know, like, yeah, you're not serious. Like, yeah, you're not serious. Because one, Mother Nature and Father Time are so undefeated. They are very undefeated. So eventually, them boobs gonna sag, booty gonna sag. You might get a little gut here and there. You know, guys, little gray hairs, receding hairlines, dad bods, or whatever they be calling it. Like, you just, it's life. It happens. But you are committed, or you're supposed to be. You are committed to someone. And even when you get married, the vows, which clearly mean absolutely nothing nowadays, for better or worse, sickness and health. And these things aren't even sicknesses either, by the way. Like, you getting gray hair, that's not a sickness. Or you gaining a little weight or losing a little weight, it's not a sickness. You know, your body, getting older with age. And sure, like you got your anomalies, people that are super in shape at a high age and things like that. But that's not the norm, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just not the norm. So, with that being said, we're approaching the 40-minute mark, and that's normally how long I like to keep these podcasts. When I start having guests, they'll probably be a little bit longer. I'll probably stretch it up to like an hour or something. But when I do have guests on, I won't. I do all the talking on these when I'm by myself. I won't do as much talking because, one, on this kind of topic, you already will have my perspective because you listen to this. You know what I'm saying? But I'm definitely gonna bring this back up maybe a month or so from now. Um, so be on the lookout for that. A part two of this. But I say that to say, like, when we out searching for partners, one of the biggest things is looking for people who have, at one point in time in their life, committed to things. Like, getting a degree from college is more than just getting a degree from college. That shows that that person is teachable. That shows that that person was committed, determined. That shows that that person is organized to an extent, because I know there's some sloppy people. That shows that that person. Now again, a lot of people in college cheat too, so that there's no remedy for this. You can still get a raw deal, but like I always say, you have to give yourself the best chances and the best odds. The more and more you stack the odds in your favor, the less likely silly shit is bound to happen. The more and more you stack the odds against you, it's gonna be a formality that some silly shit happens, because there's plenty of room. You done made plenty of room for silly shit to happen. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it. But thanks for listening to these Chronicles. And like I said, I think we'll be back next week. And if not, it'll be 2 weeks. But that will be the heroes versus villains thing. I'd like to thank y'all for tuning into this pod. Like, comment, subscribe, share. and do a little better job of promoting these Jones, or whatever. I'd be on that. But yeah, until next time, peace.